for emotional disturbance, but the jury did not find him guilty of the higher charge of second-degree attempted murder. Koenig and his wife Ariel both testified separately during the trial. They blamed each other over the attack that left them both injured during Ariel's birthday hike in Oahu last year. So let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Misty, to start, right, it was an emotional moment from Koenig when that verdict was read. But then we got a little insight into the jury's reasoning behind their verdict. First, let's listen to what they said.
The only way that we could really see or have an opinion about what had happened in this incident, they were the only two witnesses, so their testimonies were the only thing that we could actually have to show what the timeline and or things may have happened on Polypuka Trail.
So the jury essentially saying it was critical that they heard both from Koenig and Ariel. Why do you think that was so impactful?
It's so interesting to hear from the jurors, Clay, because there were so many big moments in this trial, but when push comes to shove, it all comes down to the unique situation that we had. The defendant testifying and the victim testifying. So you have two competing narratives. And the jury was really focused on that. What I think the foreman was saying when she spoke about the analysis, they came into that jury room split. People had different opinions on the case. And the way that they worked through it was to see where the testimony of Gerhard Koenig and Ariel Koenig overlapped, because that was what they could confirm actually happened when you have those diverging testimony about the story. So it's something that I think insight into how the jurors are actually working through this and the impact and import of having that testimony from the people who are directly involved.
Absolutely. Kind of rare to have that sometimes
Very
as well,
rare.
to have both of those parties. Let's also talk about sentencing. What exactly could Koenig be looking at here?
So he's looking at up to 20 years, and that is the maximum. But there's going to be a whole bunch of elements that the judge is going to take into consideration, ultimately handing down the sentence. So the probation department will make a recommendation. The judge will look at aggravating factors and mitigating factors. So the circumstances and nature of the crime, the fact that you have extreme emotional disturbance, was that reasonable? And then on the defense side, you can be sure to focus. Gerhard Koenig, he was a doctor, an anesthesiologist, no prior criminal record. As those mitigating factors, the judge will ultimately make that determination. Remember, judge sat through the whole trial.
Right.
So heard everything. So the judge is not going to be, in the dark about everything that unfolded in that courtroom.
And based on everything we heard from Koenig, from Ariel, from even their child, right, who alleged that his father had called him and essentially confessed to the crime, do you believe that attempted manslaughter was the appropriate conviction here?
You know, I really thought he was going to get convicted of that higher level attempted murder, just having watched the whole trial. But what the jury ultimately determined is that prosecutors did not present enough evidence to show that he came there on the Polypuka Trail that day with the intent to kill Ariel. And remember, prosecutors said that it's something he had planned for months before. The jurors did not buy that. So instead, they went with what is the lesser included, extreme emotional disturbance. Something happened on that trail leading to this act of attempted manslaughter, of which he was convicted. So the lesser included offense, but still significant, carrying a very large sentence.
All right, Misty Maris, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And still ahead, a twist in the frantic search for an American woman who went overboard from a boat in the Bahamas. We'll have that.